Our today's topic for discussion is War of Independence 1857. In the year 1857, the British faced a series of challenges to their control of India. In that year, there were many uprisings, or you can say a series of uprisings, which were known by the British historians as mutiny. On the other hand, to the Indian historians, these uprisings were the War of Independence. So for the British, this was considered as revolt against their control, and which had to be crushed in order to maintain their rule, or you can say their control. And for the Indians, it was a foreign domination. They wanted to throw off this foreign domination. So it shows that how history is a matter of reinterpretation. Political causes. As the British extended their control, the local rulers saw that their authority, their control declined. On the other hand, there was a sign of resentment. The people were resented a lot. There was anxiety among the people at lower level in the society. No opportunities in the civil services, other departments, in courts. English was declared as official language and the language of administration, and in which education would be given. If you talk about the representation, there was no representation for the Indians. In January 1857, the British were introducing a new rifle in the army. Its cartridges were made with greased paper cover, which were made from pigs, the fat of pigs and cow. As we know that cow is sacred to Hindus and Muslims do not eat pig's meat. So Mangal Pandey, who was stationed at 34th Infantry, he refused to use this cartridge. He attacked his officers, defied his officers. After that, he was executed. The war spread over almost 14 to 15 states at that time. So the British slowly and gradually lost control. Bahadur Shah Zafar surrendered peacefully, and his sons were murdered brutally. Mirza Abu Bakr, Mirza Mughal, and their heads were presented to Bahadur Shah too as a lesson. Many Indians fear that Islam, Hinduism and Sikhism is under threat in British rule. By the arrival of the Christian missionaries trying to convert them into Christianity. So they feared that their religion is in danger under the British rule. Beside it, abolition of sati. It means that a woman without marriage, when she will not enter into a matrimonial relationship with someone. So they abolished this sati system. They were allowed to remarriage. Legalization of widow remarriage, which was not legalized in the customs of Indians and their practices, they did not allow someone to legalize the widow remarriage, but they legalized it. Generally, there was social discrimination. They denied the promotion of educated Indians. Even after the proclamation of 1858 Act, they introduced some sort of reforms that Indians will be given opportunities in civil services. But from 1858 to 1870, imagine there was only 1 or 2 Indians who were discharging their duties in Indian civil services. They totally denied the promotion of educated Indians. The first thing to be discussed in military causes is the less salary as compared to British soldiers. We know that most of the soldiers in the East India Company were Indians. They paid very less salary to the Indians as compared to the British soldiers. The promotion were close to Indian soldiers, which resulted resentment among the Indian soldiers. So they were not promoted to the higher positions at that time by the British East India Company. Forbade the Indian spies from wearing caste and sectarian marks. The soldiers, you can say, they were wearing some sort of caste symbols which were showing their caste and their background, their sect. So they forbade the Indian soldiers from wearing these caste marks. General fear about religion. Soldiers were feared that their religion is in danger. Right after the arrival of the Christian missionaries, they were very anxious. They feared that they will be converted into Christianity. So there was general fear among the spies, among the soldiers at that time. Inferiority complex. Most of the Indians in the East India Company's army were Indians, but you can say that the officer class was Britishers. They were feeling themselves inferior to the British officers. The first thing in economic causes is the policy to exploit India economically. This was the British East India Company policy to exploit Indian subcontinent. Actually shifted, or you can say transferred, the raw material from Indian subcontinent to the Britain industries. There in Britain industries, they manufactured some sort of cheaper and better goods and products. Then they transferred that manufactured goods and products to Indian subcontinent and their other colonies. So it was, you can say, that their policy to exploit India economically by imposing high taxation. Because of this policy, the resentment grew among the peasant and small landowner class. Strict revenue collection policy. This was the British East India Company to exploit India economically. So this was another reason from economic causes. After the War of Independence, the British East India Company rule was abolished. The Secretary of State was given the responsibility for the government here in Indian subcontinent. However, direct responsibility was in the hand of Governor General, who was now replaced with the Viceroy. The next point is the effect of the war. The British said in their proclamation of 1858 that they will not interfere in the religious beliefs of the people. On the other hand, they will protect the ancient properties, the heritage, historical heritage and the properties, and they will agree to not further territorial acquisition, that they will not further capture the territories of the Indian subcontinent. Right to appoint in public services, right to appoint the Indians in the public services. As I told you, from 1858 to 1870, there was only one person discharging duties in Indian civil service.